What you're about to witness will make you question everything you thought you knew about Australian politics. Senator Fatima Payman has just unleashed a political nuclear bomb that's left Anthony Albanese scrambling for cover, and the fallout is absolutely devastating. This isn't just another parliamentary disagreement, this is a full-scale character assassination that exposes the ugly truth about how power really works in Canberra, and it's going to leave you absolutely furious about what goes on behind closed doors. The mainstream media is trying to downplay this as just another political spat, but what happened in Parliament House this week is nothing short of a complete exposure of Anthony Albanese's true character, and it's uglier than anyone imagined. Fatima Payman didn't just call out the Prime Minister, she systematically destroyed his reputation as a principled leader and revealed him to be exactly what she called him, a vindictive bully who's borrowed tactics straight from Donald Trump's playbook. Here's what they don't want you to know: this explosive confrontation didn't happen by accident. It's the culmination of months of behind-the-scenes intimidation, petty revenge tactics, and political persecution that would make authoritarian leaders proud. While Albanese presents himself as a compassionate, reasonable Prime Minister to the cameras, Payman's bombshell revelations show a man consumed by personal vendettas and willing to abuse his power to destroy anyone who dares to challenge him. Let me paint you the full picture of this political warfare, because every Australian deserves to know how their Prime Minister really operates when the cameras aren't rolling. Senator Fatima Payman, remember her? She's the brave politician who actually stood up for her principles last year when she crossed the floor over Gaza policy and quit the Labour Party. While other politicians were calculating poll numbers and focus group responses, Payman looked at Labour's position and said, "I can't support this in good conscience." It was a profile in courage that should have been celebrated, but instead, it marked the beginning of Albanese's personal war against her. What happened next will shock you to your core. Instead of respecting Payman's principled stand, instead of showing the mature leadership Australians deserve, Anthony Albanese launched a systematic campaign of political persecution that reveals his true character. This isn't about policy differences anymore, this is about a Prime Minister who can't handle dissent and will use every tool at his disposal to punish anyone who dares to cross him. The latest bombshell dropped when Payman accused Albanese of engaging in what she called vindictive bullying over staffing decisions. But this wasn't just about hiring and firing, this was about the Prime Minister using his power to deliberately sabotage Payman's ability to serve her constituents effectively. Think about that for a moment. The supposed leader of our democracy is actively working to undermine the democratic process because his feelings got hurt. Here's where it gets absolutely disgraceful, and this is the part that should make every Australian furious regardless of their political affiliation. Payman revealed that Albanese's office has been systematically blocking her staff appointments, delaying essential administrative processes, and creating bureaucratic nightmares designed specifically to handicap her effectiveness as a senator. This isn't politics, this is abuse of power at the highest levels of government. The Trump comparison isn't accidental, and it's absolutely devastating when you understand the full context. Just like Trump used government machinery to target his political enemies, Albanese is weaponizing the Prime Minister's office to conduct personal vendettas against politicians who've committed the crime of having different opinions. The man who promised to bring dignity and integrity back to Australian politics is behaving like a petty dictator who can't handle criticism. But here's what really exposes Albanese's hypocrisy. Throughout his entire political career, he's positioned himself as a champion of the underdog, a defender of workers' rights, and someone who stands up to bullies. Yet when faced with a Muslim woman senator who dared to follow her conscience, he revealed himself to be exactly the kind of bully he's spent decades claiming to oppose. The staffing controversy that triggered this latest explosion is particularly revealing because it shows how Albanese operates behind the scenes. Parliamentary staffing isn't just about administrative convenience, it's about senators' ability to research legislation, serve constituents, and fulfill their democratic obligations. By deliberately sabotaging Payman staffing arrangements, Albanese isn't just being petty, he's undermining the democratic process itself. Sources inside Parliament House are describing an atmosphere of fear and intimidation that's unprecedented in recent Australian political history. Other crossbench senators are reportedly walking on eggshells, terrified that any criticism of government policy might trigger similar retaliation from the Prime Minister's office. This is how democracy dies, not with dramatic coups, but with gradual intimidation and the systematic punishment of dissent. The most damaging aspect of Payman's revelations isn't just what they say about Albanese's character, it's what they reveal about the complete failure of Labour's supposed commitment to diversity and inclusion. Here's a Prime Minister who talks constantly about representing all Australians, about building an inclusive society, about standing up for marginalised communities. Yet when faced with an accomplished Muslim woman senator who represents exactly the kind of diversity Labour claims to champion, his response is to try to destroy her political effectiveness through administrative sabotage. What makes this even more infuriating is the complete silence from Labour's so-called progressive wing. Where are all the politicians who lecture us about tolerance and inclusion when their own leader is engaged in what can only be described as systematic harassment of a Muslim woman senator? The hypocrisy is absolutely breathtaking, and it exposes the hollow nature of Labour's commitment to the values they constantly preach. The timing of this confrontation couldn't be more significant because it comes at a moment when Albanese leadership is already under intense pressure from multiple fronts. The cost of living crisis continues to devastate ordinary Australians, international conflicts are exposing divisions within Labour ranks, and now we have confirmation that the Prime Minister is more interested in settling personal scores than addressing the nation's challenges. Parliamentary insiders are describing Albanese's reaction to Payman's accusations as absolutely explosive. Sources say he was visibly shaken when confronted with the Trump comparison and spent considerable time in closed-door meetings with senior staff trying to develop damage control strategies. The fact that a comparison to Donald Trump hit so close to home reveals just how accurate Payman's assessment really is. But here's what's truly disturbing about this entire saga: it represents a complete betrayal of everything Albanese claimed to stand for when he became Prime Minister. He promised a new era of political civility, mature leadership, and respectful discourse. Instead, we're witnessing petty revenge politics that would make high school students embarrassed by their immaturity. The international implications of this controversy are equally troubling. At a time when Australia needs strong, principled leadership on the world stage, we have a Prime Minister who's more interested in conducting personal vendettas than addressing global challenges. How can Albanese credibly represent Australian values internationally when he's systematically undermining democratic principles at home? Payman's courage in speaking out deserves recognition because she's risking further retaliation from one of the most powerful politicians in the country. The fact that she's willing to continue fighting despite facing the full weight of the Prime Minister's office shows the kind of principled leadership that's sadly lacking in contemporary Australian politics. The broader implications of this controversy extend far beyond personality conflicts between individual politicians. What we're witnessing is a fundamental test of Australia's democratic institutions and whether they can withstand the personal whims of vindictive leaders. If prime ministers can use their offices to systematically undermine political opponents through administrative sabotage, what's left of our democratic safeguards? Labour supporters who are defending Albanese's behaviour need to seriously examine their own values and consider whether they are comfortable supporting a leader who engages in exactly the kind of political persecution they would condemn if it came from Conservative politicians. Principle should matter more than partisan loyalty, and anyone who truly believes in democratic values should be horrified by these revelations regardless of their political affiliation. The most tragic aspect of this entire controversy is how it's degrading the institution of Parliament itself. When the Prime Minister's office becomes a centre for petty revenge operations, when administrative processes become weapons against political opponents, when vindictive bullying becomes standard operating procedure, the entire democratic system suffers irreparable damage. What happens next will be crucial for determining whether Australian democracy can survive this assault on its fundamental principles. Will other politicians find the courage to speak out against this behaviour, or will fear of retaliation keep them silent? Will the media continue to investigate these serious allegations, or will they allow themselves to be distracted by other stories? Will voters hold Albanese accountable for this betrayal of democratic norms, or will partisan loyalty trump principle once again? The choice is clear: Australians can continue to accept this degradation of democratic institutions, or they can demand better from their leaders. Fatima Payman has shown remarkable courage in exposing this behaviour, and now it's up to the rest of us to ensure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Australian News CC family where the real stories come to life. See you in the next one.